Ryan Reynolds just posted something that made my jaw hit the floor, and I genuinely need to talk about it because the audacity here is on another level. So Ryan goes on social media and shares this little piece of wisdom, and I'm quoting this thing. In life, you'll meet a lot of jerks. If they hurt you, tell yourself that it's because they're stupid. That will help keep you from reacting to their cruelty because there's nothing worse than bitterness and vengeance. Always keep your dignity and be true to yourself. Read that again. Ryan Reynolds, the man whose wife's legal team sent out over 100 subpoenas to content creators and digital journalists. Ryan Reynolds is lecturing the world about bitterness and vengeance. I had to sit with that one for a minute because if I'm understanding this correctly, Ryan is essentially telling all of us, the people who watched this whole mess unfold, the people who read the actual court documents, that were jerks. And not just jerks, we're stupid jerks. That's the message. If someone hurts you, just remember they're stupid. So everyone who criticized Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively over the past 2 years, stupid. Apparently cruel even. Meanwhile, the dignified ones, the people we should all aspire to be, are the couple who subpoenaed a creator with one subscriber. That's keeping your dignity, folks. That's rising above. And honestly, the more I think about Ryan's history here, the worse this post gets, because this is the same Ryan Reynolds who has spent years talking about how you never punch down. That's been his whole brand. The nice guy, the charming guy, and then he goes and creates Nice Pool. If you watched Deadpool and Wolverine and thought that character felt off, that the joke just wasn't landing, congratulations. Your instincts were correct. A lot of people, myself included, didn't even know who Justin Baldoni was when that movie came out. I genuinely thought Nice Pool was Ryan making fun of his own fake feminist image. And I remember thinking, well, okay, this bit isn't funny. Why do we keep coming back to it? And then the lawsuit happened, the documents came out, and suddenly it clicked. Oh, that's why the joke didn't land, because it wasn't a joke. It was a hit piece wrapped in a Marvel movie. Ryan Reynolds used Deadpool, used Hugh Jackman, used an entire beloved franchise to publicly ridicule a guy as an inside joke for anyone who knew what was really going on. At that point, they hadn't even lost anything. They just didn't like the man. And if that's not the most bitter, vengeful, punching down move I've seen in years, I don't know what is. So, spare me the inspirational quote about dignity, Ryan. He tricked a lot of us, and every new thing I learn about this guy makes me like him less. But wait, because Blake Lively wasn't about to let her husband have the spotlight all to himself. Blake posted her own deep philosophical message, and I promise you this is real. She shared this passage about how she believes it's her responsibility not to waste her precious life, about the immense hallways of time and space, the infinite chain of accidents that led to this moment, how she's here. She breathes, she sees, she feels, she experiences this grand spectacle of a cosmos, the grand spectacle of a cosmos. Blake, sweetheart, if your precious life is so sacred and not to be wasted, then why in the world did you spend an entire year on that lawsuit? You don't want to waste your precious time, but you had absolutely no problem wasting everyone else's precious time, precious money, and precious sanity dragging the circus through the courts. The lack of self-awareness is genuinely impressive. People online are calling the post hollow, and look, maybe Blake truly connects with it on some spiritual level, and good for her if she does. But coming from her right now, after everything, it reads like a parody. And here's the thing, Blake can post all the cosmic poetry she wants, but the internet has receipts and the community notes will not let her breathe. She just got hit with another one, and this one is brutal. It was attached to an old post of hers, one of those quick, glam hair tutorial things from months back, and the note absolutely dismantled her Blake Brown haircare brand. It called out accusations of misleading marketing, challenged the brand's central claim that its products can replace traditional conditioner, and questioned the honesty of those nourishing labels, pointing out that the second most concentrated ingredient is a sulfite that can actually be drying and irritating for people with sensitive skin or dry hair. So the product she markets as deeply conditioning might be doing the opposite. And here's why the timing matters. Remember all those documents that got unsealed toward the end of the case? Some of those revealed that people were reviewing Blake's hair products negatively and returning them, and that Blake herself was aware of those reviews. They were sent to her. So she knew customers weren't happy, and the marketing kept right on rolling. That's why the community notes are accumulating now. The unsealed documents handed the internet a flashlight, and people are shining it on everything Blake has ever posted. Even the packaging is getting roasted. And honestly, fair, it might be some of the worst packaging I've ever seen on a hair product. Now, while all of this is happening, what are Blake and Ryan actually doing? They're out on a frozen yogurt date, and somehow Page 6 found this newsworthy, a frozen yogurt date. Let me tell you my theory on this, because I don't think it's random. The news cycle is slow right now, sure, but there's been this steady drip of tiny, harmless little stories about Blake and Ryan lately. They got ice cream. Blake accessorized her purse. Cute little nothing stories that don't make noise but also don't make them look bad. That to me smells like a PR strategy. Keep a gentle stream of soft content flowing so the narrative stays warm and fuzzy. That's my speculation, my opinion. But the pattern is hard to ignore. And for the record, Ryan made the better dessert choice because if you actually look at what they ordered, Blake's frozen yogurt was basically a fruit bowl with granola on top. Granola at a frozen yogurt shop. Ryan, to his credit, went full chaos mode, with what looked like Oreos and M&Ms piled on. And listen, if you're going out for ice cream, get the ice cream. Nobody is impressed by the healthy option, Blake, but that's the level of story we're being fed right now. And that's exactly my point. Page 6 is out here documenting topping choices, while the actuous substance of this saga, the unsealed documents, the community notes, the receipts, gets buried under a soft serve swirl of fluff. Little puzzle pieces, that's how I see it. One small story here, one small story there, and individually they're nothing. But when you collect enough of them, a picture starts forming. And the picture I'm seeing is a couple working very hard to look very normal. And speaking of people working very hard to look normal, let's talk about Hugh Jackman, because the rumors swirling around this man right now are getting impossible to overlook. Hugh has always been tied to Ryan Reynolds. They're famously close, the whole Deadpool and Wolverine dynamic, all of it. And now Hugh is getting pulled into his own storm. The latest reports claim that Hugh has one problem his new girlfriend apparently can't fix. Insiders are alleging that Sutton Foster wants Hugh to become more emotionally self-reliant, that she wants him to do some serious work on himself before any wedding happens, which raises the obvious question, is the marriage on pause? And honestly, I am not even a little bit surprised. Think about how this whole thing unfolded. Hugh Jackman was in an extremely long-term marriage, decades. Then he starts dating his coworker, and these rebound into coworker romances tend to follow a very predictable script. It's hot and heavy at first, all passion and excitement, and I finally found the one. And then reality lands. You wake up one morning and realize, wait, I just left my wife of nearly 30 years for this, and now we're arguing about who's emotionally available. There are exceptions, sure, but most of the time that fairy tale gets a rude awakening. And it sounds like Hugh and Sutton might be in the rude awakening phase right now. If you ask me, maybe the answer is simple. Don't get married. Just date. See if it actually works when the honeymoon glow fades. There are plenty of fish in the sea, as they say. Now, here's where I want to be careful, because I've genuinely never heard a bad word about Hugh Jackman as a person. Everyone who's worked with him says he's a sweetheart. I've always liked him as an actor. And I can't even be mad at him for standing by his friends through this whole Blake and Ryan mess, because that's what friends do. We don't know what he was told. We don't know what he saw behind closed doors. Friends defend friends. And I can't crucify a man for loyalty. I also can't automatically dislike someone for getting divorced. Relationships end. I've had relationships end. Maybe nobody cheated. Maybe Hugh and Sutton were just flirty coworkers who caught feelings, and Hugh was honest enough with himself to end the marriage before anything happened. We genuinely don't know, and I'm not going to pretend I do. But, and this is a big but, if the uglier version of the story is true, if Hugh really did leave Deborah Lee behind, the way some of these rumors suggest, then what's happening to him right now is karma in its purest form. Because here's something I've learned in my own life. You cannot outrun that stuff. It always circles back, and the volume of rumors hitting Hugh lately is what's making me pay attention. Normally, I'd ignore a story like this, one anonymous insider, one tabloid source, whatever. But it's not one story. It's a lot of little fires, and they keep getting bigger from different directions, different sources. When that happens, you have to at least wonder whether there's a spark of truth somewhere underneath all that smoke. Is some of this just people trying to pull Hugh into the it ends with us drama because he's Ryan's best friend? Probably some of it, yeah. The internet loves connecting dots that don't exist, but all of it, I'm not so sure. And then there's the other layer to the Hugh rumors, the one that's been whispered about for years. And Blake Lively herself basically poured gasoline on it. If you watched A Simple Favor 2, you know the big twist. Blake's character is in the arrangement she's in because her partners are gay, and people immediately noticed because that mirrors exactly what's been alleged about Ryan and Hugh for ages now. Am I confirming that? Absolutely not. Am I denying it? Also not, because I have no idea, and frankly, it's none of my business. Whatever Hugh's personal life looks like is his own. But the fact that Blake, of all people, would inflame those rumors through her own movie's plot twist, that's a choice. That's a very interesting choice. Something is going on with Hugh Jackman. I can feel it in my bones. But what exactly that something is, I couldn't tell you. What I can tell you is where Deborah Lee stands in all of this. And honestly, she might be the only adult in the room. The word going around is that she's handling everything with remarkable composure. There are even rumors she wants to meet Sutton Foster to sit down and get past the awkwardness face to face. And if that's true, I applaud her with everything I've got. Do you know how much strength that takes to go through a divorce after decades? Possibly with betrayal in the mix, under a global microscope with kids in the picture, and to choose grace anyway. Most people couldn't do it. Most people would choose the bitterness, the vengeance, you might say. Funny how the person with the most reason to be bitter is the one showing the least of it. While Ryan Reynolds lectures strangers about dignity from his phone, because that's the part that keeps bothering me. Deborah Lee Furness, the woman who arguably got the worst end of this entire celebrity web, is quietly modeling the exact behavior Ryan Reynolds claims to be preaching. She's keeping her dignity, she's staying true to herself, she's refusing bitterness and vengeance, and she's doing it without posting a single smug, inspirational quote about it. Meanwhile, the man actually posting those quotes is the same man whose camp turned the legal system into a carpet bombing campaign against anyone with a camera and an opinion. The contrast could not be more perfect if a screenwriter had written it. And let's really sit with those subpoenas for a second, because I don't think people fully appreciate how extreme that chapter was. We're talking over 100 subpoenas aimed at content creators and digital journalists. Some people got hit multiple times. 3 subpoenas to essentially the same person. One of the targets had a single subscriber. 1. What exactly was the strategy there? What dangerous misinformation empire was being dismantled by subpoenaing someone whose entire audience could fit in a phone booth? That's not protecting your reputation. That's sending a message to anyone who might dare to speak about you. And then you log on to social media and tell the world that the real problem is jerks, and that those jerks are cruel because they're stupid. Ryan, buddy, that's not wisdom, that's projection. That post says far more about the person who wrote it than about anyone reading it. Honestly, the man needs a good therapist, not a quotes app. Here's what I think actually happened with that post, by the way. I think Ryan knows exactly who his audience interpreted it as being about. He knows the people following the saga have read the filings, watched the rulings come down, and formed opinions he doesn't like. So instead of addressing any of it, instead of explaining the nice pool stunt or the subpoena blitz or why the unsealed documents look the way they look, he reframes everyone who criticized him as a stupid, cruel jerk that he's nobly choosing not to react to. It's a magic trick. He gets to play the victim and the bigger person simultaneously without ever touching a single fact. And honestly, it might have worked 5 years ago. The problem is that the public has spent 2 years watching this couple operate in real time, and the old charm doesn't paper over things the way it used to. Blake has the same problem, except hers is even more visible because the community notes have basically become a permanent fixture under her posts. Think about what that note on her hair tutorial actually means. It wasn't some random troll in the comments. It was a crowd-verified correction sourced and rated helpful, stating that experts have challenged the core promise of her entire Blake Brown brand. The claim that her masks can replace conditioner challenged. The nourishing labeling questioned, because one of the most concentrated ingredients in the formula is a sulfite known to dry out and irritate exactly the hair it claims to pamper. People tried the line and didn't like it. Reviews came back negative. Products got returned, and according to what surfaced in those unsealed court documents, those unhappy reviews were sent directly to Blake. She saw them, and the marketing machine didn't miss a beat. That's why I don't feel an ounce of sympathy when another note appears on her timeline. The internet isn't bullying Blake Lively. The internet is fact-checking her, and she's giving it a lot of material to work with, which brings everything full circle to the frozen yogurt of it all. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. The fluffy date coverage, the purse accessory stories, the cosmic gratitude posts about breathing and seeing and feeling and the grand spectacle of existence. It's all the same playbook. Flood the zone with softness, keep the couple visible but unremarkable. Let the cute stuff slowly bury the court stuff in the search results. And maybe it'll work on people who weren't paying attention. But for those of us who were, Blake Lively writing poetry about not wasting her precious life after burning a year of everyone's lives on that lawsuit is never going to read as profound. It's going to read as a punchline. You can't subpoena your way through the culture and then ask the culture to admire your spiritual depth. Pick one. As for Hugh, I'm going to keep watching that situation with careful eyes. The Sutton Foster reports, the emotional self-reliance demands, the marriage potentially being on ice. If true, it's a very human story about a man who dismantled a 30-year life for a romance that's now hitting turbulence. I'm not rooting against him. I hope he figures himself out. I hope Sutton gets whatever she's asking for. And I especially hope Deborah Lee keeps healing and doing whatever she needs to do, within reason to move forward, because going through that publicly must have been brutal. But if it turns out the rumors are right, and he wasn't honest about how that marriage ended, then the little fires currently surrounding him are going to keep growing, and no amount of nice guy reputation will put them out. Karma doesn't check your Rotten Tomatoes score. So here's where I land on all of it. Ryan Reynolds called his critics stupid jerks while sitting on the most vengeful celebrity legal campaign in recent memory. Blake Lively posted about the sacredness of existence while Community Notes dismantled her business claims in real time. The man they made into a movie-length inside joke is the one who comes out of this looking restrained. And the quietest person in this entire story, Deborah Lee, is the only one actually living the values everyone else keeps posting about. The lesson, if there is one, is pretty simple. Dignity isn't something you announce. It's something people notice when you're not performing. And right now, Blake and Ryan are performing harder than they ever have, which tells you everything about how the real story is going. Something tells me the frozen yogurt dates won't be enough to freeze this one out.